Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. So, last night, the Wall Street Journal came out with that article saying that Tesla's board reached out to several executive search firms to work on a formal process for finding Tesla's next CEO. On my community post last night, I said, you know what, let's just wait and see what Elon has to say about this. I'm guessing he'll chime in, and he did just that. He said it's an extremely bad breach of ethics that the Wall Street Journal would publish a deliberately false article and fail to include an unequivocal denial beforehand by the Tesla board of directors. The main Tesla account also said this is absolutely false, talking about the Wall Street article, and this was communicated to the media before the report was published. The CEO of Tesla is Elon, and the board is highly confident in his ability to continue executing on the exciting growth plan ahead. That from Robin Denholm. Elon also said it's not that all Wall Street Journal stories are fake, but they're almost all mean-spirited and deceptive. Now listen, this might come as a surprise to some of you, but personally, I would not be surprised if Tesla's board was looking for a different CEO. But hear me out for why I say that. I'm guessing some of you forgot, back in 2021, during an interview, Elon said he never wanted to be the CEO of Tesla. Instead, he would prefer to focus on product development and innovation rather than managing the company. Which is always why I just shake my head and laugh anytime I read somebody saying that Elon's not really an engineer, when in reality that's exactly who he is and exactly what he wants to do. Believe it or not, Elon doesn't want to play politics, he doesn't want to play the PR game, he just wants to work on solving hard problems. So the truth is, Tesla might be best served by letting Elon step into a different role. Obviously, he would still have the same influence as he does now. It's just that transition would allow him to focus on exactly what he wants to do and offload all of the other things he doesn't enjoy doing. But yes, he actually said he doesn't want to be the CEO, it's just he felt nobody could actually replace him. So Elon is the CEO of Tesla not because he wants to, but because he feels like he has to. So I'm just preparing everybody now, if and when the day comes when Elon is no longer the CEO of Tesla, that does not have to spell the doom that the media wants you to believe. So in that world, Elon would most likely shift into a product role or a traveling fire putter outer, if you will, and then someone else handles the CEO tasks. They engage with the media, appease Wall Street on earnings calls, etc., and in that scenario, that could be even better, a win for everybody, as long as the new CEO is in lockstep with Elon's vision for the company. Just to add the cherry on top, this article from the Wall Street Journal is still up. But for now, clearly Elon is not going anywhere, and today is day 1 of May, so we can celebrate Elon coming home a bit, spending more time at Tesla this month. And yes, Tesla still needs to figure out Elon's compensation situation, but unfortunately on that front, the latest update we got was that no hearing date has been set, and the appeal process could extend into 2026, potentially taking this to the US Supreme Court. But on that note of Elon spending more time at Tesla, the Tesla AI account shared something from Grok saying that there's only 31 days until June 1st. So the question becomes, could you interpret this as Tesla forecasting that maybe by June 1st they're ready to launch the robotaxi rides? And to that, I would say, I think the answer could be yes. But another way to interpret it would just be that's when June starts and that's the month when it happens, not necessarily that it's on the 1st. Personally, I'm going to keep my expectations in check and set for the end of June, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sure why they would post this if they weren't aiming for June 1. We also have the US and Ukraine reaching a deal over access to Ukraine's natural resources. The deal will grant the US privileged access to new investment projects to develop Ukraine's natural resources, including aluminum, graphite, oil, and natural gas. I'm sharing that excerpt though on purpose because they left out other resources like lithium and rare earth metals. So nowadays more than ever, it's important to read multiple sources. And the reason this could potentially be such a big deal for Tesla is because this is an opportunity for Tesla to diversify its supply chain for things like lithium away from China. And this deal is supposed to give preferential access for US companies. Now, I still have all kinds of questions questions like what the cost profile will be for these resources from Ukraine and the timeline, and right now we just don't have that level of granular detail. And we also have to keep in mind there are other US firms, not just Tesla, that may benefit from this agreement. Think GM and Ford, as they're working on their batteries as well in partnership with other companies. And I can guarantee you both of those companies also want to reduce their reliance on China. There's also a joint investment fund with this agreement, so some of these revenues are set to be reinvested into new projects, which could help to bring new mines online. With this agreement, there should be improved infrastructure, and given the geographic location, if and when Giga Berlin starts making 4680s in-house for the European market rather than shipping part of those cells to the United States, then having that supply direct from Ukraine would of course be beneficial. And finally, I did just want to touch on this. Some people are saying Tesla is going to set up a factory in Ukraine now. I would definitely pump the brakes on that one. I think there's way too much instability in that region. And to me, it just feels like an unnecessary risk with not enough upside. But the US now has control over a share of the future revenue from natural resources from Ukraine. And a fun fact, before the war with Russia, Ukrainian officials suggested to Elon that he invest in Ukrainian lithium mines. Now, this will certainly take time to develop. It's not going to be beneficial overnight, but it does certainly pave the way to becoming quite beneficial for Tesla in the years ahead. If you missed it the other day, Tesla is hiring more than 1,000 new workers in Nevada as they look to ramp up mass production of the Semi. As we heard in the keynote from Dan Priestley, this won't change the timeline. We should expect the first Semi units off the line later this year, but the production ramp won't really happen until 2026. And this morning I was thinking about this. Tesla's in a position where the Cybertruck could be a flop, the Semi could be a flop, the S and X could go out of business, and Tesla still has a viable path to becoming the most valuable company in the world. Now, let me be clear, I think the chances of the Semi being a flop are very close to zero. For the Cybertruck, I'm hoping it's just a delayed success story. We get through the political nonsense, and then over time, as the price comes down, more people are able to learn about what makes the truck special. And then the S and X are already mostly irrelevant for the bottom line. I'm just saying, I don't think there are too many companies in the world where you can remove business lines like that hypothetically and still see a path to a multi-trillion-dollar valuation. It looks like the new B-pillar recording feature will require AI-4 in the new spring update. And not only that, but for now, the Cybertruck will not be getting that updated feature either. Which is a bit odd because the Cybertruck does have AI-4 and the Ryzen chip that's required, but don't forget the Cybertruck also had that more efficient Sentry mode version than the rest of the fleet. So I bet this feature comes to the Cybertruck at some point in the future and hopefully to Hardware 3 vehicles as well. On Toyota and Waymo reaching a preliminary agreement to explore a collaboration focused on accelerating the development of autonomy. It seems like people were glossing over they're just going to explore a collaboration. It's not like they've landed on anything tangible. The companies will explore how to leverage Waymo's autonomous tech and Toyota's vehicle expertise. Their goal, figuring out what to do about next-gen personally owned vehicles. We have Dan Ives out here playing the Jekyll and Hyde role apparently, saying he disagrees the Waymo and Toyota partnership is a groundbreaking deal and a threat to Tesla. Tesla will own the autonomous market in his view, and no one can compete with their scale and scope. Let's not forget all of the promises Toyota has made about solid-state batteries over the last 5 years. And how about Toyota investing $500 million in Uber in 2018 for autonomous driving? So far, that's mostly a failure. In 2021, through Toyota's Woven Planet, they acquired Lyft. And so far, Lyft's public stock has been a failure. Also in 2021, Toyota partnered with Aurora, which is an autonomous driving startup, which, yes, was another failed autonomous driving venture. Toyota and SoftBank in 2018 developed a mobility as a service platform, which never materialized. And what's wild is I could keep going with this, but I think you get the point. And the one thing I haven't seen anybody talk about is, let's say Toyota figures out a way to work with Waymo and shrink the size of all of these sensors for a personal vehicle. Well, in that event, does that mean that the owners have to pre-map the entire location they plan to drive in or ride in when they buy this vehicle? Because in case you've forgotten, you can't just drop these Waymo vehicles anywhere and they start driving themselves. They need to have that pre-mapped data. So is the customer going to do that, or would this only be available in the cities that Waymo's already operating in, which really limits the addressable market? And again, even if they found solutions to all of those problems, this isn't going to happen in the real world for another 3 to 5 years, given how fast legacy companies move. And by that time, I'd be confident in saying that solution might be dead on arrival, given what Tesla's robotaxi fleet will look like. And listen, I've said all along, I would love for Tesla to have real competition for autonomy because I think it would light a fire under Elon and the team. And yes, I know they're always pushing because that's how Elon is wired, but they also know that from a generalized perspective in the United States, it's them and then nobody else. And if you disagree with me, that's fine, but let's talk again 12 months from now. I need to admit something. I've been spending less time on X as of late. Initially, I wanted a way to stay up with the news, but it feels like it's become a propaganda machine at some times. It can be tough to get accurate news when many accounts just share a headline and one line or two, and there's always an agenda behind it. Now, I'm guilty too, obviously. I'm pro-Tesla, but I have to say, as of late, I've really been enjoying staying informed with ground news instead of X. The best way I can explain it, ground news is like a safe, calm space where there aren't narratives, just facts. No biased accounts pushing their agenda and using headlines to do it. With ground news, you just get what's actually going on, and any political lean is already exposed. And yes, ground news is the sponsor of this video, but you guys know the drill. It's been a fan favorite, and it just makes sense in today's culture. Ground news is super affordable, and given there's a mobile app, I now find myself opening that instead of X to get my news. Regardless of what's going on with X, I would still be using ground news to track my news intake, to assess my own blind spots, and to track my favorite keywords all in one place. I would pay for ground news just to have access to the blind spot feature so I can see how either side of the political aisle is purposefully pushing or avoiding certain narratives. And you can check out the free version of ground news if you haven't already, and then from there, if you want unlimited access, you can get 40% off the Vantage plan using my link below or using the QR code on the screen. Joe Tetmeyer shared the other day there were a lot more Cybercab castings in Austin, looks like around 75 or so in the racks, but it could be more. So we know this is exciting for Cybercab development, but remember, we're not expecting to see production units until 2026. It's only going to be pilot production this year, more for testing. But I wanted to throw some cold water on this because I know some people are still expecting Cybercabs to be out there operating in the wild this year, and I just don't see it. I believe Tesla's focus will be on the robotaxi, which is with the Model Y for this year, and then in 2026, they can start to integrate the Cybercab as well. You may have seen that new proposal that would have a new $250 federal annual fee for electric vehicle owners and $100 for hybrids. And it sounds like this would be in addition to any existing state EV fees. That's because federal fees are collected by the federal government to fund things like the Highway Trust Fund, whereas the state fees are set by the states to fund state and local infrastructure. And we already have 39 states that do impose EV registration fees. They're saying the average driver consumes 550 gallons of gas every year. The federal gas tax right now is 18.4 cents per gallon, so the annual federal gas tax for the average driver would be $101, or over 5 years, $506. And for the federal EV proposed fee, that's $250 a year, or $1,250 over 5 years, which means that would be an extra $700 over 5 years that EV owners have to pay just for owning an EV. One of the problems with a flat fee for EV owners is it penalizes those people who don't really drive much, like myself. I work from home, I work out from home, and my wife does the grocery shopping, so there are some weeks when I don't go anywhere. We'll see what happens with this proposal, but to me, it just feels suboptimal. I hate to say it, but the situation for Tesla has really deteriorated in Canada, especially given what the conversation was just a few years back with future factories and big plans. But now, thanks to tariffs and other developments, Tesla continues to raise the prices on its vehicles in Canada. Tesla has been removed from various different EV rebate programs in Canada, and then some of the rebates Tesla got in Canada are being frozen until they verify they were legit. And I'm sure most of you have seen it by now, but the price increases in Canada are not insignificant. They're anywhere from $10,000 per variant up to a $30,000 increase. That being for the Cyberbeast. So it's definitely unfortunate for now, but this stuff is not set in stone, and we'll see what happens with these tariffs in the months ahead. Charlie Bolello shared a new chart for the average price of a used Tesla. It's now down under $30,000 for the first time ever, currently sitting at $28,997. Obviously, some level of decline is to be expected as the fleet gets older. So for Tesla's used vehicle business, it's not a great thing, but it's of course a small part of the overall business. On the other side of the coin, it's a great thing for EV adoption. The US House of Representatives has voted to bar California's landmark plan to end the sale of gas-only vehicles by 2035, the same plan that's been adopted by 11 other states. So this was the plan that was looking to mandate that 80% of new car sales be EVs by 2035. Initially, this was enabled by a waiver from the EPA under the Clean Air Act. We've talked before that basically just allowed California to set stricter vehicle emission standards than the federal government. But these Republicans and 35 Democrats are arguing that these policies limit consumer choice, increases vehicle costs, and sets a de facto national standard, again, because those other states already adopted it. Obviously, this is not a done deal. This just means it now moves to the Senate. And even if it passed the Senate and then Trump signed it, it's still likely to face legal challenges from environmental groups after the fact. But the reason I think this is important is because if this were to be repealed and other states follow suit, then these legacy auto companies will have even less incentive to switch over to make more EVs. Ford has killed a program to develop next-gen electrical architecture, the brain of modern cars, that its executives have called pivotal to competing with EV pioneers like Tesla. Ford had invested heavily in the system to streamline vehicle software functions. The goal? To cut costs, improve quality, and add profitable features in both electric and gas-powered cars. The project was abandoned because of ballooning costs and delays. A Ford spokesperson said the company will absorb what it learned from developing this platform into its current software system, and it remains focused on delivering an advanced electrical architecture with its so-called skunkworks team. And this line sums it up. We've been talking about it for years. While EV startups like Tesla and Rivian built their own software from the ground up, legacy automakers have struggled to transform their more complicated and costly software systems, which integrate computer code from dozens of suppliers. I think anyone that ever wrote an article saying how all of these legacy automakers would just do what Tesla did and better for the last 10 years, all should come forward and publicly admit how wrong they were. Tesla stock closed the day at $280.52, down 0.58%, while the NDX was up 1.1%. It was a lower volume day, trading about 28% below the average. Don't forget, check out Ground News linked below if you want a more peaceful experience to stay informed with all of the breaking news. And if you missed my announcement earlier this week, here's a quick intro video on what I've been working on. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X, linked below. And a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.